Donald Trump was recently indicted for the third time. He claims it's just political persecution and that the court is rigged. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, the politicisation of the judicial system in the United States and the legal system is a big mistake, in my opinion. So that's the first point I would make to you. Back to the debate in Israel that's taking place at the moment. But there's a big picture issue here. For me, he's been indicted on a question of silencing some lady. Is that a criminal matter or is it a moral issue? I think there's a debate to be had about that. Holding documents. The problem with the holding documents was he was asked to give them back and then he withheld them. It's not that he was prosecuted for holding the documents. People forget this. It was after he was subpoenaed to return them all, he failed and refused to do so. Is that such a massive issue? Maybe not. January 6th, at an entirely different level. So as far as I'm concerned, the issue for Americans should be this. Whether he is he reaches the level of criminal conviction for what happened on January the 6th remains to be seen. Because he will argue freedom of speech. I don't think he'll win that argument, but he might. Okay. It's not about that though. What he did was completely outrageous. It was completely beyond the pale for anybody who has been President of the United States or sought to be President of the United States to incite a right of Congress like he did, and to constantly incite people to believe that the election somehow was stolen. It was the incitement of violence, the failure to stop the violence, and that's why he is not fit to be President of the United States. So that's what we need to get in our head about this gentleman. First of all, in my view, he's narcissistic. And if you do not want anybody narcissistic running anything in any walk of life, that's my kind of first observation. But secondly, January 6th crossed the line. January 6th crossed the line. Whether he's criminally accountable for that will be decided in the courts. But it makes him entirely unfit for that great office.
Well, I think he's gunning for a criminal conviction anyway, because I think that he sees that as his main campaign, campaign theme, that I'm being criminally targeted. I'm being targeted because I'm standing up for you. Probably something like that. And I'm throwing a different shade here to everything. I think Democrats know that they can take on Trump, because don't forget, they have beaten Trump in technically 3 elections: 2018 midterms, 2020 presidential election, and 2022 midterms. Because that was the litmus test for Trump and Trump's national popularity. I think, first of all, the politicization of the Supreme Court is really, really sad. And what Trump did on 6th of January was a gift to the anti-democratic forces of the world. Like, Xi Jinping must have been celebrating that day. But coming back, I think the Democrats are trying to throw all this subpoenas and all this indictments at Trump because they know that by doing that, this basically ensures Trump will win the Republican nomination, and then they can take on Trump. I think that's my gut feeling, because I'm not confident Biden is that popular, but when it comes to Trump versus anyone else, the way Trump's divisiveness is, and it's also Trump's fault that he can't talk about anything else except for that election that was stolen. Like, he did a CNN public town hall, and he couldn't speak about anything else. Only the
he was very popular in that CNN town hall. Even the people out there were cheering for him.
Well, because that was a Republican crowd. That was a very CNN. Ratings. CNN had one of the highest ratings in 4 years because of that. But coming back, I think this is a good tactic by Republicans if you look at from the outside, that okay, let's get Trump that Republican nomination, let the party go into the hands of a bit of conspiracy theorists, and then we can take them. Because the data, the last 3 elections have shown that people have rejected Trump's divisiveness.
Yeah, I used to actually very much not only subscribe to that theory but promote it. That if Trump ended up a Republican candidate, Biden would win, because the independent voters wouldn't vote for Trump under any circumstances. I'm not sure. If you look at the national polls in the States now, they're neck and neck, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So you can never be sure about this. And I think the message I would want to convey is that the Republican Party here has a responsibility. And they have a responsibility to the country. And surely the responsibility of the country should lead them to the conclusion to have the guts to make it clear that Donald Trump is not an appropriate nomination for that once great party. Not my party in the United States, by the way, but a great party. So I think it's extremely worrying and concerning that the Republican Party is colluding with this nomination of Trump. It doesn't seem to me that any of the other candidates are going to be given any serious space. And at the end of the day, there is a leadership of the party. And the leadership of the party has the power to get on the TV screens tomorrow morning and say, we do not believe this man is fit to lead our party or our country. And so far, they haven't shown the guts and integrity in terms of being willing to do that. We should also remember that Trump incited that riot. He didn't stop it. But look what he did to Mike Pence, his deputy. Look what he did to that governor, I think, in Georgia, where he said, just find me some votes. This is an extraordinary abuse of power, like has never been seen in our lifetime before. So these are the things that disqualify Donald Trump from being president. Look, there are many people listening to your programme, who will say, but Donald Trump did some really good things. The Abraham Accords, moving the American embassy to Jerusalem, they will point to some good things he did. Maybe the way he dealt with the leader of North Korea, for example. Nobody else would have done it in that way. And I can't disagree with that. Donald Trump did do some good things when he was President of the United States, right? But he did some very awful things as well. And the bottom line is, the thing that he did when he sought to deny the democratic will of the people and to undermine the entire Constitution of the United States, that made him unfit to ever be president of that country again, in my humble opinion. So of course there's going to be this battle royal in the courts. And by the way, there'll be appeals and appeals, and as Shadman rightly says, where will it end up? It'll end up in the Supreme Court, if he's found guilty. And who controls the Supreme Court? His nominees, right? Do we really believe at that high level that they'll be capable of making an entirely professional, objective set of legal judgment? I'm afraid to say, in such a politicised system and in a politicised country, I don't believe that would be possible. So look, this has got quite a long way still to go in terms of what happens with the criminal charges, the indictments. But I think it should be beyond that. I think anybody who cares about the integrity of the Constitution of the United States should put their own party interests to one side. Actually, there's a synergy, as Shadman said here, between the interests of the Republican Party and doing the right thing by the country, which is ensuring that Donald Trump is not the Republican candidate in the next election. So look, nobody can predict what will happen if Trump does become their nominee, by the way. It's impossible to predict in a country that is so polarised. And what we need to understand sat here is there is a very high proportion of people who believe that Donald Trump is being framed, he's done nothing wrong, he's a victim of a great political conspiracy. They refuse to concede that what happened on January the 6th was beyond the pale. So you've also got to put that in the mix as well. Trump is the one who coined the phrase fake news. Yeah. He's the biggest promoter of fake news of them all. And what he does is he persuades his followers that everybody else is against them. They are besieged, and they are in the right. He is their leader, and they're being unfairly maligned, and the organs of the state, if you like, the institutions of the state, are being used against him and the people who support him. This is a creation of a different parallel universe, and this is happening all over the world, by the way. Fake news is dangerous. It's happening in every democracy. It's happening in many, many countries. So all I'd say to you is, beyond whether he's criminally accountable and responsible, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not qualified to make that judgment, juries will make that judgment. The question one has to ask is he fit to be President of the United States after the way he behaved? Answer no.
Well, I'll say this, fake news has always existed throughout history, if you look at every historical context. But coming back, yes, the polls suggest that it's neck and neck, but even before the 2022 midterm elections, the polls suggested that, there will be a red wave. I was only hearing red wave, and because
so
most of the
states don't always say the truth.
Yeah, it was 60-40 to the Republicans, and then on the election day, the results were Democrats came out, like that was Joe Biden's best ever result, even better than his election result to an extent. Coming back, what Ivan has said, I think I agree, but that the Republican leadership needs to build a spine. Like the other day, Marco Rubio, Florida, not governor, the Florida senator. So he was asked, I think this is last year, he was asked, we are hearing that Ivanka Trump wants to run as a senator for that seat. And he started stumbling and mumbling. And this is a guy who ran for a Republican presidential nomination, and that is sad. Like they intimidated, like just by the Trump name. But the other thing is, the Republican Party has lost the next election unless Joe Biden does something catastrophic to destroy the economy. Because the thing here is, if Republicans ditch Trump and go for someone else, they lose their vote base. Trump can run as an independent. Like even a criminal conviction won't stop Trump from running. He can still have his name on the ballot according to American law. The other thing is, okay, if Trump runs, there might be Liz Cheney running, and the way Liz Cheney was insulted and everything, there is a 10% Republican base that will swing,
Yeah.
and that's basically the end of the election. So you know how American elections go state by state. So 10% in most of the.
You think that Liz Cheney will run? Did you say if he's chosen the Republican?
If there, well, Liz Cheney has been basically kicked out of the party. So there is a theory that Liz Cheney will run if Trump is the nominee.